Hello everyone and welcome to the Synology product online training. We have an awesome topic for everyone here today, going over a new update to Synology's backup solution for enterprises that is ActiveProtect Manager. This is update 1.1 and there's quite a few new features to go along with the system. Before we get started here today, some introductions are in order. My name's Cody, I'm a product manager here at Synology and I'll be your guide for this one this time around. Today, we're going to start off with an overview of Synology's ActiveProtect Manager, a backup solution for enterprises from Synology with dedicated hardware to go along with it. We're then going to take a look at what is new with ActiveProtect Manager 1.1, a recent update to the system. There's features like automated protection for VMs using VMware tagging, compliance auditing for Microsoft 365 backups, some enhanced security features we're going to cover, and new features like tiering, allowing you to expand what a single ActiveProtect Manager device can handle by tiering data off to cloud repositories or ActiveProtect vaults and the like. So let's get started on the first part of today, starting off with an overview and introduction to ActiveProtect, Synology's dedicated backup appliance for enterprises. In terms of the hardware available inside of Synology's ActiveProtect Manager environment, that is going to be the data protection appliances. For enterprises, you're going to be focusing on utilizing the DP7200 and DP7400. The main differences between these two models is the overall hardware capacity that is available inside of them. Keep in mind, ActiveProtect Manager is an all-in-one backup solution. Whenever you purchase one of these devices, it includes the RAM, the hard drives, and the SSDs for SSD caching that you would need to back up optimally. ActiveProtect Manager is a purpose-built system. It's a backup appliance and it's a software suite that is built for enterprise-grade backup tasks. Also, it is streamlined. This system is designed to be easy to deploy and then after deployment be easy to manage. Lastly, this system is an optimized platform that is designed for us to be able to rapidly implement feedback from enterprise clients and channel partners. In fact, this system was entirely designed because of feedback from those same individuals. So once again, thank you for your input on the Synology product line. In regards to ActiveProtect Manager being purpose-built for enterprise backups, it is once again a fully integrated system. You have dedicated hardware and software from the same vendor, specifically tailored for enterprise backups. So that means for every single site you deploy this at, you have the same hardware and it's specifically optimized for a set amount of backups. Because of this, this is easy to set up and manage for your IT admins. If you're utilizing a software-based system where you brought your own hardware, your admins would have to design both the hardware side and understand the software topology to go along with that. On top of all this, ActiveProtect Manager provides many measures to increase the storage efficiency. There's incremental backups, source side deduplication, and if you're an enterprise with multiple sites, there's also cross-site deduplication, giving you more benefits than if you were using a system that only deduplicated within itself. ActiveProtect Manager is streamlined for enterprise backup operations. As mentioned, it's pre-configured. You have the RAID already pre-designed, the RAM is already specified, and the SSD cache is already sized for your system. So that means you have easy deployment with optimized backup settings. Now, the management of this platform is all centralized. You get a single console that manages all backup tasks across your entire site. And this site is quite expandable on top of that. You can manage up to 2,500 locations and 150,000 endpoints, all from a single pane of glass. ActiveProtect Manager is so optimized for enterprise backup operations because it was built on direct feedback from our partners and enterprise clients alike, those individuals that use Synology backup systems prior to the release of ActiveProtect Manager 1.0. I'm happy to announce that our feedback collection didn't end with this 1.0 release. Keep in mind, today's webinar is all about ActiveProtect Manager 1.1, with many new features available inside of it. I'm happy to announce all of these features were created due to direct feedback from our enterprise users of ActiveProtect Manager. So thank you for your input. Let's check out what we have in store. So let's move on into our next section today, checking out what's new for ActiveProtect Manager 1.1. So new for ActiveProtect Manager 1.1 are these four main features. There's other small quality of life improvements and some changes to the user interface, but these are some of the major ones we want to share with you in this webinar. We first have a new feature in the auto protection for VMs suite inside of ActiveProtect Manager. Previously, ActiveProtect Manager can back up your VMs based on hosts or clusters or folders, for example. But with this new update, it's now able to apply backup plans and policies based on tags you have inside of your VMware environment. On the Microsoft 365 backup side of things, we now have additional compliance features specifically for auditing. Now, if your users are searching through specific other users in your tenant, they're looking at specific emails, etc., that can all be logged and reviewed should you need to audit it down the line. There's also enhanced security features, particularly improvements to the worm write once, read many features and air gap systems for greater system security. And one of the big features inside of ActiveProtect Manager 1.1 is the creation of tiering inside of this backup platform. That means we can tier data off of your main DP7200 or 7400 to a cloud repository or to another Synology NAS that is compatible with ActiveProtect Vault. In terms of automatic protection for the VMs, we've changed what we support inside of the automatic backup protection policies. We've added the ability to do VMware tag-based policy assignment. And we also have the new feature of being able to auto-archive your backup data for a specific set amount of time based on a policy that you set. In terms of automatic backup policy assignment inside of ActiveProtect Manager, you can already automatically apply a backup plan according to a folder or to a host and cluster, for example, inside of your VMware environment. But new to ActiveProtect Manager 1.1 is the ability to use tags across your system to have a separate plan based on the tags that you actually have inside of VMware. And that's separate from the folder structure inside of that platform. Now, if we take a look at an environment for VMware where maybe you have different folders that you have inside of your vCenter environment, let's say you have folder 1, you can have that set to be daily backups, for example, and folder 2, you can have that be weekly backups. However, if you assign these backup plans, that means all of your VMs inside of host 1, host 2, host 3, host 4, for example, would be underneath the daily backups policy. Now, with the addition of support for VMware tags, you can get a little bit more granular inside of these backup policies. You can have different tags have different policies. For example, if certain VMs that you have tagged have a need for a more frequent backup cadence, you can set those to be hourly backups, or maybe you could have another backup policy for a different tag that is a weekday backup rather than running perhaps on a weekend, for example. So using these tags inside of your vCenter environment to create these backup policies allows you to get more granular even if you have a folder structure set up on top of that. So let's begin our demo of automatic backup policies utilizing the VMware tagging feature. Now, you can see that we're in our main ActiveProtect Manager environment, and you can see we're on our dashboard. The first thing that we're going to do is I want to show you what hypervisors that we have connected to this. Right now, we do have a bunch of VMs that are already being backed up, and we have quite a bit of success there. If we take a look at our hypervisors, we do have an ESXi node paired to the system, and we also have our vCenter server paired to the system as well. VMware tags are specific to vCenter, so that's going to be where we apply these tags to. Back under virtual machines, we're going to go ahead and add an auto backup setting. You can see that we already have one enabled for the ESXi node, but we can go ahead and add one for tags and categories for our vCenter device. So you can see we have a couple tags. If I select one of them, we can go ahead and choose a specific plan for just that tag. So I can go ahead and select that plan, hit done. And you can see we can back up now or choose later. Now, once this is finished, you can see that we have an automatic backup policy for a specific tag on a specific plan. And we can go ahead and add additional ones for each other tag we want to take care of. So we go back to tags and categories, we can choose the other tag, and you can see our previous one is labeled as already protected. So we know that's already taken care of. Now we can choose a completely separate plan for this other tag, and now we have automatic policies for each separate tag in our VMware environment, allowing you more granular control of the backup policies for those specific tags rather than doing it at just the folder level. I'd like to elaborate a little bit further on why this auto-archiving feature is so important for enterprise users of ActiveProtect Manager. Now, this ability to automatically archive backups from VMs that have been removed helps to prevent backup failure errors when the system tries to go and back up a VM that no longer exists. So this could be an intentional operation, for example. Let's say you remove a VM from your hypervisor and you no longer need it. The system will no longer go and attempt to collect a backup again, and that means you'll have less errors inside of ActiveProtect Manager. This helps you reduce alert fatigue for your IT admins, and they'll be able to respond accordingly to real errors from actual problems that didn't occur from an intentional operation, for example. Now, in terms of adjustments for Microsoft 365, there's been a range of improvements, including to the access control procedures. ActiveProtect Manager now seamlessly integrates with Microsoft's preferred cloud-only directory, and that is, of course, Entra ID. There's also support for multi-geo backups. If you have a large organization and your tenant has multiple different geographic locations, the system can handle that accordingly. It also has support for multi-domain users. The self-service restore operation now uses universal principal name instead of just usernames. So that helps you remove the problem of having potential duplicate usernames inside of multi-domain organizations. And there's now an audit log feature inside of the Microsoft 365 backups inside of ActiveProtect Manager. You can actually see who accesses backups, where and in what tenant, and exactly what they actually looked at. So if you ever needed to review that for audit and compliance reasons, you can definitely do so in this platform. Back in our demo environment here today, let's take a look at the auditing features that I mentioned for the Microsoft 365 tenant we're backing up right now. So let's get familiar with what we have going on so far. We're going to move to the Cloud Applications menu on the left-hand side, and you can see we have quite a few different users already backed up inside of this tenant. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some operations where we begin to search for specific users, specific OneDrive environments, and all that stuff so that we can begin to build some actions in the logs, and we can then review them, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and select this John Snow user here. Go to the versions, and we can go ahead and drill down into one of the versions inside of the recovery portal, for example. So I can go into one of these other panes down here, click on some of the files, or I can go into a different module inside of the backup environment that we have here, go to Exchange, for example, and see how this actually picks that up. So if we go and switch over to Exchange and drill down into a specific version, we can now review a specific email from one of my colleagues, Josue, and you can see all the different details inside of that. So now I'm a user interacting with this Microsoft 365 backup environment. So now let's go ahead and audit these actions back in the main admin console. If we go down to the logs here, you can see this is going to be where a lot of your other systems logs are too. So you can see there's a couple drop downs for filtering this in various different ways. The menu that we want to see is actually in the search menu. And if we take a look at the type dropdown, you can see there's a data access type here. And you can see all the different actions that we just took. For example, you can see my user on my domain accessed a specific portion of Jon Snow's email, and we can see it happen on a specific date, and it's from a specific tenant as well. And as you can see, there's many different actions occurring inside of this tenant from other users as well inside of our environment. So if you ever needed to go back and audit the actions your users take while viewing data inside of your environment, you can definitely review that here, and you would be able to satisfy any audit compliance needs that your organization may be subject to. Now let's talk about some of the improved security measures inside of ActiveProtect Manager. We've made some changes to the write once, read many, or worm features, and we've also changed how the air gap operations work whenever you do have that enabled on your ActiveProtect appliances. Now in terms of write once, read many features inside of ActiveProtect Manager, we have created what is called worm lock with ActiveProtect 1.1. Now keep in mind, write once, read many features were created so that you can create an immutable environment for your backups to protect them from ransomware. And this feature is taking things a step further for security of this specific feature. Now with worm lock, it is now impossible to do a factory reset in the control panel of the system or in the command line, for example. To actually reset the platform, you would have to fully remove the drives, you'd have to have physical access to them, and you would have to physically zero them using a third-party system, for example. Now, in terms of the time clock for your worm policy or immutable policy for your backups, the time clock is now independent of the system clock on the platform. So that means you can't defeat your immutable policy by changing the system clock time. It is going to always respect this independent time clock. Likewise, if you move the system to a different time zone, it will also respect your original immutable policies that you set when you originally created those backups. So as you can see, we're in a new ActiveProtect Manager device now, and we're going to use a device that is a little bit new inside of our demo environment, and we're going to try to go into the main factory reset menu, where you can do usually a system reset on normal Synology NAS devices and things like that. And we're going to see how the system reacts since it does have some immutable data and does have the worm lock already enabled. So if we go into this environment and go ahead and log in, you can see we're on the appliance console of a specific data protection appliance that we have in our environment. Under Control Panel, System Reset is normally where you would reset a Synology NAS or a regular system. But as you can see, there's completely no options here at all for this device. What it's actually referencing is for you to go to the article if you really did need to reset this. If you're actually the owner of this specific device, the only way to reset this device is by fully removing all of the HDDs and SSDs, etc., from the environment and fully zeroing them using a third-party system. There's not a way to fully reset your system in the software or in the command line. Next, let's talk about changes to the air gap feature inside of ActiveProtect Manager 1.1. Now, keep in mind, air gap is a feature that allows you to protect a server, usually your backup copy server, by detaching it from the network entirely or by turning it off. Now, this is a requirement by some organizations for compliance or for your cybersecurity insurance. Let's check out some of these changes. Let's start off with some baseline knowledge of best practices for creating a backup server environment that has a production device and an offline server for housing your backup copies. Now, first off, it's recommended to have separate management and data ports on separate VLANs. Your management port is your internal secure network segment. It is for IT access only, and this is going to be how you actually manage your ActiveProtect Manager site. Your data port is your production network segment. That's going to be where the data is actually ingested into the specific backup server. An air-gapped server is physically separated from the production environment, and this is done by disabling the NIC, for example, or by entirely powering off the system based on a policy that you set. One would do this so that you can reduce the risk of manual tampering and also reduce the risk of your secondary backup appliance being hit by ransomware if that is affecting the rest of your network. We always recommend to have your backup copy be the one that you actually perform the air-gap procedures on. We want your production site backup server to hit backups every hour potentially for your critical VMs and servers, and having an air-gap policy set there could have you missing backup versions if it's not configured properly. So it's always recommended to have your air-gap procedures being performed on the backup copy side of things. Now, in ActiveProtect Manager 1.1, we did make some changes to the access window that you configure whenever you set up your air-gap policy. Now, we set that to be every hour, for example, or every 30 minutes. However, let's say your backup copy process is a little bit more efficient than that. That would mean that there's some areas on the end of that policy where the system is online and accessible, but it's not necessarily ingesting any backups anymore because it ran more efficiently than you expected. So this new feature is about restricting that access if you aren't transferring data to that server in the first place. The goal of changes to the air-gap policy in ActiveProtect Manager 1.1 is all about minimizing the access window to your backup copy server. So let's say that we have our backup copy server set to air-gap and we give it an access window of about 3 hours. And let's also say your backup copy was a little bit more efficient than that, and maybe it only took about an hour to send the data across to your backup copy server. That would leave about 2 hours of vulnerability for your backup copy server where it's not actually collecting data. So with this new update, when there's actually no data left to transmit to your backup copy server, the system will automatically disable the data port NICs on your backup copy device, effectively minimizing the access window to only when you need it. The final feature in ActiveProtect Manager 1.1 I'd like to highlight today is tiering. Now, you might have seen tiering available in other Synology portions like DSM 7.3, and ActiveProtect Manager is also getting its own type of tiering, specifically tailored for backup operations. Now, think of tiering as a way for you to increase your long-term storage. Keep in mind, a data protection appliance like a DP7400 has a set capacity, and there's not expansion units to apply to it. So having tiering means you can retain your data longer than what a single appliance could possibly hold. So you can transfer data to remote storage for long-term retention, potentially to an HD 6500 or the like from us. Likewise, this now increases the support for large data stores. You can use tiering to economically expand storage space logically, rather than having to buy specific tailored expansion units. You can even use cloud destinations to allow you to send this data up to object storage in S3, Wasabi, etc. The tiering functionality inside of ActiveProtect Manager is applied at the backup server level rather than at the backup plan level. So that means that you can take a primary backup server like a DP7400 or a DP7200 and assign it remote storage that can tier data off to. And all the backup plans going to that primary backup server can utilize that tiering destination. So let's provide you a quick example. Let's say your primary backup plan has retention of 365 days and your tiering policy actually moves data across after around 30 days. That means on your primary side, you'd have 30 days of retention on that primary backup server, and on the tiered data side, you'd have around 335 days of retention on that side. Now, the advantages of tiering are such that you retain all the main functionalities of ActiveProtect Manager 1.1 we discussed today. It has full integration with the immutable features and write once, read many policies we talked about today. So if data is protected by this lock before tiering, it'll be locked at the destination as well. You also maintain your full retention policies at the tiered destination, and global source-side deduplication is still respected, and you can still benefit from that in ActiveProtect Manager 1.1. All right, let's get into our final demo here, and this is going to be on configuring tiering for your specific environment. Now for tiering, you can enable a tiering plan underneath the tiering plans menu, and you can see we already have one enabled. If you create a plan, you can see that it's telling you to create your tiering plan to relocate earlier data from backup servers to remote storage. So let's remind ourselves what remote storage is. There's a specific tab for that on the left-hand pane. Backup servers are where you ingest your data initially. That's like a DP7400 or 7200 device, for example. And you can see we have some remote storage already added in here. But you can choose any other of these remote storage destinations as either your backup copy destination or your tiering destination. So I could choose ActiveProtect Vault, another Synology NAS that's compatible with that, like an HD6500. You can use Synology's C2 object storage, an S3 compatible cloud solution from us, Amazon S3, and new to this version of ActiveProtect Manager, specifically ActiveProtect Manager 1.1, is the addition of Wasabi cloud storage and also any other S3 compatible destination. So any one of these can be backup copy destinations, or they can be tiering destinations for your environment. So once you have remote storage added, then you can add tiering plans in and then assign those tiering plans to a specific backup server. So here we are, we're going to move in and go ahead and add a plan name here. We're going to choose when we want to tier data after, so we can set 30 days, or if you wanted to tier after 365 days if you wanted to, you could do that. We're going to set it to tier after 30 days so we can limit how much data we actually have on our primary side where we collect those initial backups. Then you just choose your destination, one of those remote storage destinations like the vault we had added in. Now keep in mind right here, you can see that we had a warning added into this environment. It's important to have this warning because remember, I said that remote storage can be a backup copy destination or it can be a tiered storage destination. And what this warning is describing is that you don't want to have a backup copy destination be the same as a tiered destination because it may not have as much separation as you may have originally intended in your backup operation. So by having this warning in place, the system will try to prevent you from sort of crossing your streams whenever you're setting up a backup copy and or a tiering environment. So if you don't see this warning pop up, that's good. There's no conflict occurring on the platform. But in case you do misconfigure something, the system can detect that there may be presence of a backup copy and a tiered copy on the same device, which is not ideal for a full 32110 environment with full isolation like we've been describing today. Now once we hit OK here, we can go ahead and apply this to a specific backup server. And you can go ahead and hit maybe later or hit continue and it'll let you select one of the devices you want to assign this to. Please note that if the backup server already has a tiering plan, it will switch to the one we're assigning right now. So now you can see that we're getting a warning that indeed that is occurring, and when that actual change will happen, it'll happen on the next tiering run. And now you can see that we have our new tiering plan to tier data after 30 days assigned to our main backup server. Let's go ahead and verify that our backup server does indeed have that new tiering plan. And you can see on the right-hand side, there's a column specifically designating the tiering plan. So now this backup server and all plans going to it will tier its data after 30 days. So if you had a total retention plan of 365 days, for example, and you tiered after 30 days, the main backup server would retain 30 versions and the tiered destination would have 335. Showing that tiering allows you to have greater expandability for larger retention and larger data sets in ActiveProtect Manager 1.1. All right, that about wraps things up here today. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time.